Okay, this is an autonomous underwater vehicle. It's a Slocum glider, and we've been deploying this in the Gulf of Maine, looking at essentially long-term change in the Gulf of Maine, a important coastal area with lots of fisheries. And it's part of a time series which has been funded by NASA, looking at long-term change as well as doing parallel measurements, in-water measurements, made at the same time as ocean color satellites are going over. It's really important in order to understand the signals that you're seeing from space to actually have instrumentation in the water at the same time that the satellites go over. So Henry, as he's affectionately known, named after Henry Bigelow, our laboratory's namesake, is outfitted with optical sensors, a whole suite of optical sensors, as well as sensors to measure temperature and salinity, which are important for understanding the physical oceanography. And these light sensors essentially allow us to measure reflectance that would be observed by a satellite at a number of different colors of light. As well as Henry has sensors underneath which are designed to measure the amount of chlorophyll, the pigment that's in microscopic phytoplankton, which allow the plants to photosynthesize and fix light. Their phytoplankton are the bottom of the marine food web on which all life in the sea depends. So understanding how they vary in space and time is really important for us to understand long-term change and what its impacts are going to be.
And what separates this kind of a device from the array of buoys we have out there?
Well, this essentially, as technology has gotten better and better, you still have to send people out on ships to do work. There's no getting around it. However, we send this glider out for 24, 26 days at a time to cross the entire Gulf of Maine, and he surfaces every 6 hours. It's like having a Martian, a Mars rover, essentially, in which we can program it to go to specific areas. It's autonomous, but it's communicating where it is. It has GPS, it has compass, it dead reckons, and it essentially takes data for us. And we don't have to have a ship out at the same time, and the Gulf of Maine can be a very rough, inclement area. And so there are times, frankly, we couldn't be out in a ship making these sorts of measurements. But the glider basically can be on site for almost a month at a time, which is really remarkable.
Is it also significant that that you can actually see a whole linear swath of the Gulf versus buoys here or a ship out here? And
sure. So the glider, what really separates the glider from free drifting buoys is that we can target a specific area of the ocean. We can cover a transect in which we're looking specifically at interesting ocean areas, areas that we need to collect more data, whereas a buoy that's drifting essentially is going to be at the whimsy of the strong tidal currents and the winds, and so this allows us to be much more targeted in what we're looking at in the ocean.